Let's read the question together. Figure 1 has some displayed formula of organic compounds labelled A, B, C and D. So what is the key information we've been given in this rubric, this introduction? We've been told we've got displayed formula. Now what does that mean? That means we can see every atom and every bond within the particular formula. And we've been given some displayed formula of organic compounds. Now, organic compounds contain mainly carbon held together by covalent bonds, and they will have hydrogen and other elements such as oxygen and nitrogen present. And we've been given 4 different organic compounds here. Now, you're not expected to know the names of these, we just refer to them by their letter. Let's look at part A. Give the letter of the organic compound that is. So what's the command word? The command word is give, and that just means state simply. And we're giving the letter, only the letter, of the organic compound from the list above. So, part I, I'm looking for a carboxylic acid. Now, a carboxylic acid has a functional group of bond COOH, and the only molecule that fulfills that criteria out of this list is molecule B. This here is actually ethanoic acid. It's the acid that you would find in vinegar. And we can see here, this here is the carboxylic acid group. So the answer to this question is simply B. Part 2. The product of the reaction between B and D. So B is a carboxylic acid and D is an alcohol because the bond OH here is an alcohol group. Now when a carboxylic acid and an alcohol react together, you get what's called an ester. This is a condensation reaction, so the two molecules stick together and make a bigger molecule, and they release another small molecule, which tends to be water. So the answer to this one is C. And this here is the ester that is formed between B and D. And the name of this ester is ethyl ethanoate, although you don't need to know the name of it. Let's look at part 3. The product from the fermentation of sugar. Now, sugar is actually used in the metabolism of yeast, and we do that to make ethanol, which is more commonly called alcohol. And looking at these particular displayed formula, the answer would have to be D, because this here is ethanol. So we just write the letter D. Part 4. The reactant that can be oxidized to produce B. So oxidation reactions are when oxygen has been added to something. Now, when you leave ethanol open to the air, the oxygen in the air reacts with the ethanol to make ethanoic acid, a carbonic acid. And this here is an oxidizing reaction. And that's why if you open a bottle of wine and you leave it out open to the air, it starts to taste more and more acidic. And indeed, if you leave a bottle of wine open for a relatively long period of time, it becomes wine vinegar. So white wine would become white wine vinegar and red wine would become red wine vinegar. So the reactant that can be oxidized would be D, because that's the starting chemical. Now don't worry that we've got the letter D twice for 2 of the answers, and indeed we haven't got the letter A at all. It doesn't matter. Some students think there's 4 lines, there's 4 formula, it must have 1 for each line. That's not the case. Part B. Methanoic acid can undergo a chemical reaction with reactive metals. Give the name of the gas formed. So, what is the command word? The command word is give. And remember, that means state simply. And what we're after is the name of the gas formed when methanoic acid reacts with a reactive metal. Now, any acid reacting with a reactive metal will always make a salt and hydrogen. And it doesn't matter that it's an organic acid, it's still an acid. So the gas that we're going to make is quite simply hydrogen. Now you could put capital H subscript 2, which is the diatomic formula of a hydrogen molecule, but you don't have to make it that difficult. It's asked for the name, we've given them the name. Part C. Propanol can react with a metal to make sodium propanoate salt and a gas. Write a word equation for this reaction. So, what's the command word? The command word is write. And what other information has the examiner given us? they've told us that propanol, so that's the reactant, will react with a metal, and those are the two reactants there, and they're going to make the product, which is a sodium propanoate salt and a gas, and they want us to write a word equation. So we know that the reactants are going to be propanol and a metal. Which metal is it? Well, we know the salt is sodium propanoate, so the metal must be sodium. Now, this is a chemical reaction that goes one way, so we're going to have a goes to arrow. It's not a reversible reaction arrow. So we need to work out the products. So the products will be sodium propanoate and a gas, and that gas is hydrogen.